to another episode of the Playing in the Sandbox podcast, where we are deeply committed to inspiring action and shifting perspectives in today's leaders. Today, I am diving into a topic in the sandbox on inconsistency, or the price of inconsistency, and what it's costing you. Inconsistency in your decision making, specifically as a leader. So let's kick off our shoes and step into the sandbox, dig our toes in, and get going with this powerful conversation all about you as a leader and the price of your inconsistency for you and for your team. You're going to want to get on over to tammyjbond.com/podcast and click on this episode to download your copy of today's action plan, because there's even more tools and strategies for getting consistent in your decision making and understanding the cost of your inconsistency in decision making on the action plan. So head on over and get that today. I also want you to get your pen and paper ready, and you're going to want to write down 1, 2, and 3, just numbers 1, 2, and 3 on that piece of paper, because I know that you're going to walk away with 3 new tools or 3 new perspectives or 3 new strategies to implement so that you get more consistent in your decision making as a leader to support your team on their next level growth. Get your pen and paper. 1, 2, 3. Dig your toes into the sand, and let's get ready to go. Hey friend, I am so excited to dive into this topic in the sandbox with you today about inconsistency in leadership and the price or the cost to you and your team. I am seeing it in unprecedented, from my perspective, unprecedented numbers of leaders that I'm working with that are really struggling to hit a consistent cadence in their leadership style. And it is impacting every team. It is impacting every member of every team. It is impacting the results and the outcomes. It's impacting the way that others, even outside of these organizations, looking in, are thinking, wow, is that the right leader? Is that the right CEO? Is that the right executive director? Is that the right vice president? Is that the right director that we have? Because we hired them, maybe we hired them during the pandemic. We brought them in to solve problems, to take companies or teams to the next level. And they did that. But now, all of a sudden, there's been this shift. And I think I figured out what the shift is that's causing now these leaders to become inconsistent and in such a way that it's impacting their teams extremely negatively. And we're going to get into consistency and why it's crucial for building trust, for setting clear expectations, and for fostering, let me get that out, for fostering team cohesion. And it doesn't matter, leader, it doesn't matter what organization, what type of industry you're in. This inconsistency, when it happens, it has a massive ripple effect that what I'm seeing right now, take the leader out of the equation and let's focus in on the team, because the team and the lack of health in the team right now is costing companies and organizations an incredible dollar amount, day over day, week over week, and month over month. So let's start with this. What is it about consistent leadership that's important? Well, it promotes accountability in the team. It enhances our communication. It improves team performance. The trust factor goes up. The safety feeling in the workplace goes up. We're talking all about this topic is so common around creating psychologically safe work environments. Well, that means that your people want to feel safe to be able to bring things to you as a leader and talk openly without fear of retribution, but they also want to trust that you are going to make consistent decisions. That doesn't mean perfect, right? Former episode, Be Better, Not Perfect. Go back and listen to it, because that will help you to understand what I mean about that. It's not about being perfect, but there is an element about how you as a leader will benefit everyone in the organization the more consistent you are with the way that you deliver information, make decisions, and help them to feel a part of the solution versus always laying down the problems and never actually getting to creating solution. We're just judging and that negativity. It's really difficult. It creates an environment where team members aren't collaborative, right? So having consistency in leadership gives us the opposite. It creates an environment where Team members can collaborate effectively. They align their efforts toward the same vision, the values, the goals of the organization to achieve shared goals. They are all contributing to the overall success of the organization, and they understand their contribution. When you as a leader are consistent with your decisions, you're promoting something so valuable to the organization, which is that sense of contribution, that every member of the team matters. But this zigzag back and forth, I'm going to put something out there and pull it back. I'm seeing it left, right, and center. I'm seeing it every week. Every day. I would, in the last several weeks now, I have seen it where inconsistency, and I can show you the flip charts. I could show you the list of things that your team members, leaders are saying. When our leader does this, this is the impact negatively that it has on us. And I do this exercise where I take teams through, think about the best leader that you've had and what's their positive impact. What was it that made them such a great leader for you as a CEO, or, as a vice president, whoever you're reporting up to. And time again on that list, for years, I've done this exercise. Tell me the positive and tell me the negative. Tell me the things that don't work for you. The positive are, I understand where I stand. I understand what my expectations are. When I'm with a positive, good leader, I understand that I have an opportunity to communicate even when frustrated. They create an environment where we trust each other. The way that they make decisions, I'm always clear of what our next steps are because they communicate it so effectively. And then when we flip the script and we get over to the other one, which is what are the negative ones? Well, the negative ones, that inconsistency is at the top of that list. They're inconsistent with their decision making. It's like a yo-yo, right? The little childhood toy, right? I was never good at the yo-yo, which is probably why I'm so direct with my communication today. And I am passionate about helping people to be more effective with the way that they communicate consistently, and that you have a cadence and a pattern to it consistently. Why? Because it matters to the people. But the yo-yo effect is a great toy. It's not great in leadership. And when you're putting something out there to your team and you pull it back, and you put something out there and you say, oh, yeah, no, I don't really want to do it that way, consistently, time and time again, they don't know, they don't trust what you are giving them. And so they're not going to be taking action on it. And I'm seeing this in the conversations I'm having. So anyways, I want to say this, leader. Today, we're covering a lot of information, and I want to make sure that we get through the details of what consistent leadership means, brings, and how it impacts you and impacts your team, but also the opposite of that. What's the impact that inconsistent leadership is having? In the importance of this topic today, I want you to make sure that you're ready to take some really great notes. All right. Because the more that I can help you understand the importance of your consistent movements, let me say that again. The more that I can help you understand the importance and significance of your consistent movements and decision making as a leader, was the more we can tackle that today, the greater health we're going to bring to your team, the greater profitability we're going to bring to your bottom line. So let's dive in even deeper, and let's talk about those common manifestations of inconsistency in leadership. First and foremost, fluctuating expectations. When you are inconsistent as a leader, it sets different expectations up for your team, and they don't understand what is expected at any given time or in different situations, and it can result in confusion and in frustration among the team members. They may be talking at the water cooler about this, and they're frustrated with you because they're seeking to understand what's expected of them, but they don't know because you have fluctuating expectations, because you as a leader haven't maybe identified or aligned them to what's the plan, the strategy, what are our goals, and how's the data driving the decision making that we're doing. Because when we don't have that clarity, we're not able to communicate that clarity, and it creates fluctuating expectations, which really ultimately demoralizes your team and can often leave them feeling in a toxic environment. Uneven communication is also a trip hazard for you. Inconsistent leaders often communicate irregularly. Their cadence is off, right? It's inconsistent and selective. They'll communicate to certain people, but not to others. And then they wonder why the rest of the organization or other team members aren't operating in the same way, because, when you're inconsistent and if you're selective leader with who you're communicating with, doesn't necessarily spread out, because when you create an untrusting environment, those that you have selected to communicate with are keeping everything close to the vest, because they don't want to lose that position with you, because they see the inconsistency for everybody else. It's mind-boggling to me. But I have just recently had a very clear experience with this. I hearken it back to an experience I had a few years ago, which shifted the way I approach leadership teams today. It shifted it from this perspective. I learned a few years ago in an environment that I was in with a CEO. I watched how that individual relied on two people to the left and to the right. Okay. And those were the loudest voices. So oftentimes we'll go into organizations and we'll bring in our leadership development program and say, okay, we're going to develop your leaders. And the CEO's like, all right, I like this. But then when it gets awkward and uncomfortable for the next two in line, they're the ones talking to the CEO, and the CEO will often pull back. Why is that? Because they're only listening to those left and right people. They're not listening to the whole team. And what I learned in that is, stop worrying about the CEO. Start talking to the person to the left and the right and get their buy-in at every stage, because they're the ones that are going to influence the CEO, because the CEO has such limited capacity of who they can listen to. So while it does seem selective, if you can impact that next level, that left and right person, you're going to actually have a greater impact for the rest of the organization. And oftentimes we don't look at it that way. We say, oh, change starts at the top. Well, yeah, but I actually believe there's a major opportunity and momentum from the middle. But when it comes, so why am I sharing this? Because when there's uneven communication from the CEO to that level, that left and that right level, when it's uneven or lopsided, it doesn't necessarily trickle down, because they are trying to keep close to the CEO. So what you want to be able to do, leader, if you're in that position, you want to make sure that you as CEO are talking to more leaders than just those to your left and the right, to your executive team, right? To your board, or to your VPs, or whoever those folks are at your next level of leadership. You want to be talking to all of them at the same time. Yes, individually and at the same time. So we create more consistent, even communication. Because when misinterpretations happen, it happens because of uneven communication. When misconceptions or misunderstandings or breakdowns happen, it's because it's been uneven. And that results in a problem for you. And the way you change that, start talking to more and be consistent with the way you're delivering it. Even if you need to read it on a piece of paper, friend, be consistent with how you're delivering it. Here's another big one, another big impact for you on and cost, really, the inconsistent decision making. That's again that yo-yo back and forth. Leaders who exhibit inconsistency may make decisions that appear arbitrary, that appear contradictory, or they're based on personal preferences rather than objective criteria. And it can lead to a lack of trust in the leader's judgment and erode confidence. It creates a toxic work environment, and it challenges the confidence for your other people on your personal decision making abilities. And so they're always waiting for the next shoe to drop. Your team's sitting there waiting, going, okay, well, I heard this is the decision, but I'm going to wait about a week, because if Joe's consistent, if Joe stays on track with the one thing I know he's consistent with, is his inconsistency. So they're going to just wait it out. And then you as the CEO or the director or the whoever, you're frustrated, business owner, you're frustrated because, wait, my team didn't deliver what I thought. Well, oh, right, because I'm inconsistent. They're still waiting for the next shoe because they don't want to invest their time. Which takes me to a story. I was just having a conversation. It's probably been about a month ago now, a while ago, with a leader who literally told me that they wait before they take action, because they know that the decision is never the decision until there's at least 3 course corrections on it. And then they've spent all this time doing work that they need to go and redo. And so they just wait. So they understand their leader's cadence, if you will, for decision making. It's inconsistent. And so they wait. And then until they know, okay, yeah, I now understand, I can move forward. That's what they've done. They've built in their own protection. And what blows my mind is, I said to this individual, so what's keeping you from asking the question to your leader, right, to your director, It seems that we have an inconsistent pattern. And just so that you know, I'm holding back taking action until you've changed your mind 3 times on any directive you give. Why is that? Because I know you're going to change your mind 3 times because you're inconsistent. Help me understand how I can help you get to the greater consistency so that I'm more quick and swift with getting my work done for you. And instead of this constant frustration. And the person said to me, because I don't think they would hear it because they don't see it's a problem. Well, then they don't value your time. So now what? Right? It's just this dialogue that I want to encourage you to even start having with your people, because it's inconsistent decision making, it absolutely creates challenges for your people. So let's understand inconsistency in leadership a little bit better. I want to dive in there a little bit deeper. Inconsistent leadership can have significant effects on your team members. We've talked about that, from morale and trust and productivity, as well as team cohesion. And it fosters a sense of uncertainty and that toxicity I talk about. So morale, and it impacts and decreased motivation, right? Inconsistency in leadership can lead to demotivating your teams. They don't trust you, they're waiting. And when expectations are unclear or constantly changing, it becomes challenging for folks to stay motivated and engage with their work. And they'll just wait. They'll wait it out. They'll wait you out. They'll wait till you move on to something else. They'll hope for something better, or they'll go on to something better. So when you have people that are leaving, it's funny. It's like, I'm going to say it this way. Your inconsistency leader is part of the factor that you fear losing people. And so the fear, I believe, of losing people is driving your inconsistency. And that ultimately is causing people to leave. Think about that for a minute. We fear nowadays because it seems to be so challenging to find good quality people to work. There's so many companies that are hiring and need to hire, and they can't get the people in the door that they need to be able to do all of the work that's before them, which is an interesting challenge to have. So their fear of losing the people that they have makes them inconsistent with their choices and with their decision making, which then challenges motivation within the people. And then when they can't trust you, then they leave. You're actually creating the very problem that you say you don't want to have. Think about that for a minute. One of the others, lack of confidence. Inconsistent leadership undermines team members' confidence in their own abilities. So they're not sure, is it me? Is it you? They may feel uncertain about whether their efforts will be recognized or valued. Um, and it leads to a decreased self-esteem and job satisfaction or efficacy on how they see themselves able to do their job. It increases stress. Uncertainty caused by inconsistent leadership can create a very stressful work environment. And team members feel anxious, and they feel like they're always, ever changing expectations, and are facing unpredictable consequences, which can negatively impact their overall morale. And they talk about it. And when they start talking about it, it swells. It starts to swell. And before you know it, it's kind of like a tsunami ready to come towards your team. And I think that's something that, in the understanding your inconsistency in leadership, is important to keep that tsunami away from your team. It impacts trust, right? It erodes trust. Consistency is a fundamental aspect of building trust, friend. When you're inconsistent as a leader, it erodes that. And your team members struggle to rely on your words, to rely on your actions, and let alone to rely on their own. Because if you're inconsistent, that's going to make it inconsistent for them. And so they're questioning their own decision-making ability. And my favorite one of all, no, not my favorite. They're all my favorite, but the obvious one is lack of communication. Inconsistency in communication from you, the leader, can hinder open and honest dialogue with your team. Your team members may hesitate to share their thoughts and concerns or innovative ideas, fearing potential negative reactions, and worse, contradictory responses from their leader, you. Like, how are you going to respond to that if they're going to be open with you? Do you want to hear what they have to say? They don't believe it. It impacts their productivity. It reduces or it causes a reducing in clarity and focus for them based on your inconsistency. Do you see this theme here, friend? It is costing you a lot to be inconsistent. It causes, I hear with leaders, I just want my team to be more accountable. I shouldn't have to follow up with them. Well, there are no shoulds. There's a choose to, get to, want to. So you might choose to follow up and find out what's causing the accountability issue for the things that they're responsible for. And you might actually find out, leader, that that's because of your inconsistent leadership. Team members may feel diminished and a lack of accountability or ability to perform for you because of your decision making. So that lack of accountability you're frustrated with, pick up that little mirror and reflect it back on self and say, what is it that I might be contributing to this? How might I be contributing to this? One of the other impacts, fragmented team dynamics. Inconsistent leadership disrupts team cohesion and collaboration. It creates a heightened sense of uncertainty, right? It creates, I've talked about this toxic environment, right? When you are inconsistent, it fosters an environment of uncertainty where your team members will constantly question what to expect or how decisions will be made. Can I trust that you've got my back? Can I trust that you're covering me as my leader? What are you going to throw me under the proverbial bus? I've seen that. I've seen that a lot. I've seen it horrifically recently. And one executive team member said to me, this yo-yo back and forth, I'm concerned, not just for me, but for my team, because our leader, the leader of our whole organization is so inconsistent, flip-flopping and yo-yoing back and forth, that my team is questioning, are they safe here? Or should they start putting out their resumes? And this leader told me about the toxicity that the environment creates and how this leader of this whole organization has, whoever the last person is in the door of their office is the one that they listen to. And so all these people that they supposedly trust, right, are coming in with different ideas, and said leader of organization keeps changing direction based on the last and loudest voice in their office. And so everybody else is going, okay, well, so who was the last person to go in the door? That's going to tell us what direction, based on their motives, we're going to be going. They literally actually are talking about that as a leadership team, because this person at the top of the org chart is so inconsistent and yo-yoing that they're now watching the behaviors of the other team members that they sit around the table with, that go in there and have that conversation at the top level. To then they think, okay, well, if Sandra just went in there, that probably means we're going to be, and then the tide is going to shift. And sure enough, it happens. So everybody's just waiting for those conversations to happen. It's incredible. And I love the opportunity to go in and impact change. And here's my thing. I'm not actually trying to impact change at the top. I'm actually trying to impact it at that next level, because that we can change that next level when they understand that if everybody's going in and having a conversation with said leader at the top to change direction, you're being impacted by that title action, just like the person to your left or to your right is. And how do we change that level? Let's just disregard the top for a minute. Let's go here. If I can start here, we'll then get to there. Make this level consistent, it goes up to the top. That's a great way to look at it. But if it's you at the top, then you got to look at who are you talking with and who are you hearing from, and start a journal, start a note of paper on your desk that says decisions I made today. And then when you come to new decisions tomorrow, look back, the decisions I get to make now today, let me look back to tomorrow. Did I make a decision on this same topic in this same area? What was my decision? Why am I changing it? For what reason would I change it? Oh, maybe I didn't have the right data. Maybe I didn't have all the information that I needed. Okay. But then please, friend, communicate that out to your people. Take the time to let your team members know, hey, I'm actually shifting direction, and here's the why I'm shifting direction. And I know I told you to go this way, but we came to a fork in the road, and I actually want to change direction, and we're going to turn this around. And here's why, and here's how we're going to do that. I'm here to support you. When you have that level of communication, now it's not that you're so inconsistent. You're actually communicating with people in a way that they understand your why behind the change. It makes them feel safe. It gives them a sense of belonging, right? So I've gone over a lot of information on this topic about inconsistency because I'm passionate about it. And here's what I noticed. If we're fearful as leaders of losing the people around us, and so therefore we're not going to be as consistent at maybe holding them accountable and responsible for the duties that they have, or we're not going to overload or overburden. We fear that we might overload or overburden giving them new assignments because, gosh, I don't want to lose them. That actually shows up as being someone ineffective in the leadership role. And I know you don't want to look that way, but when your people can't trust the way that you're making decisions and how you're working to make decisions, and then you're inconsistent with that, it costs you. It costs you exponentially. Inconsistency for leaders loses your credibility. It impacts your credibility, and it impacts the respect that others have for you. And are you prepared? Is that a check you're ready to write? Is that the hill you're ready to die on? Right? Is that the last lick of your ice cream cone? Because if it is, and that's what you want, then keep doing what you're doing. But you're going to continue to lose really good people. And it gets harder to onboard people when outside of your culture within your organization, you're known. It's known far and wide, right? And interviewees today are getting really smart with the questions that they're asking about why people are leaving organizations. What's the reason? And they know how to go and find people that were formerly at your organization to get information on you as a leader and on the way you make decisions. So the cost for you is mighty. The change for you is easy. Put down the yo-yo, right? Put down the yo-yo. Pick up the ruler to measure yard by yard what you're going to do. What are you going to do? How are you going to make the decision? What's the data telling you? Let's talk about some of those strategies for cultivating consistency in you. Because when you come up with those strategies and maybe adopt a couple of these, I have four strategies for you to cultivate consistency as a leader, because consistently in leadership is a timeless principle. And these four approaches for you will help to cultivate you as a leader and consistency as a leader and trust in your team. The first one is pretty easy, friend. Become or embrace an agile leadership style. Adopting an agile leadership style or principles can help you and the leaders around you navigate uncertainty and change with consistency. You can embrace an adaptive planning process, right? For continuous learning and decision making. Being flexible in guiding your team through evolving challenges is key with good communication. And you'll be able to capitalize on the opportunities that present themselves. But being agile also means, yes, I can be flexible and I'm telling you the why behind the flexibility. That's no longer indecisiveness. I'm being clear with my why. And oh, by the way, could you be the one communicating it and not give, your next person below you or to the left or the right of you that ability to communicate? Because they then see you as just being controlled. They being the other people in your organization just see you as the CEO or the director, or being controlled by that person that's now your talking mouthpiece. You be the talking mouthpiece. You be the talking head, right? So embracing agility in your leadership and flexibility and promoting that flexibility comes with the opportunity to communicate exactly what it is that's going on and why. Your next opportunity is to leverage all levels of staff around you to reflect with and gain insight into you as a leader. Ask your people at various levels in the organization, how am I doing with consistency in your eyes? From your frontline staff perspective, from your middle manager perspective, from your leadership team perspective, how am I doing with consistency in decision making? And how is it fostering your ability to feel successful in your role? Be willing to ask that question and sit with the answer. No responding back, no rebutting it, no refuting it, no challenging it, no, well, yeah, I did that, no trying to over explain yourself. Nope. Sit with them and thank them. Take notes and let them know, I'm going to reflect on this because I want to make sure that I am consistent with you and for you to be able to do your job to the best of your ability, because that's why we have you here. And I don't want to be a hindrance to that with the way I make decisions. So thanks for your input. I'm going to take it away and process it. You can count on that. They don't need to know that you're going to do anything with it except that. Tell them that and then actually do it, actually process it, because I believe it will influence the way you then show up. And here's one, this topic, this I love it and it's important. And I know it's over talked about, right? It's kind of one of those overused ones. Cultivate a growth mindset. What is growth mindset? It's open, not fixed, right? A fixed mindset is locked onto this is the way it always is. This is the way it's always going to be and it won't change. Where a growth mindset fosters for you, it fosters growth in you as an individual, but it also fosters growth in your team to explore what opportunities are there. It encourages continuous learning and experimentation and embracing challenges. Remember that agility we talked about? This one helps with that agility because embracing challenges as opportunities for growth is huge when your team can see it that way. And by modeling a growth mindset in you and promoting a culture of learning, leaders consistently encourage adaptability, resilience, and innovation, which at the beginning and end of the day, isn't that really just what we want? Right? I want adaptability, resilience, and I want innovation in my people so that we're moving together and growing together and the business is expanding. Because if we're not expanding, we're probably contracting, and that's a fast road to just end, right? That's just the wrong kind of road we want to be on. So here's your number 4. Harness better data-driven decision making. Now, that is a struggle for me, honestly. That is because I am not a data person. My husband is. I let him do that. He does that all day long. He loves spreadsheets. But I do understand the value in collecting and analyzing relevant data to empower me as a leader, to empower leaders around me to make objective and consistent decisions. Why would you throw good money after bad soil? Right? It's another way to say it. I'm not going to put good seed in the ground that I know is not a fruitful ground for me, but I've got to have the data to show me that. So when it gives me, when I'm looking at the decision making, when have I seen a situation like this before? What was the decision that we made? How did we handle it? And when we look at it from that perspective, that reflective perspective, it increases the likelihood of positive outcomes for us. Now, using these strategies, friend, and aligning with them um, with your evolving business, with your evolving landscape, and the landscape is shifting and changing in the world of work every single day. But leveraging innovative approaches will help you promote consistency in your leadership. And I want to encourage you that asking more questions and becoming willing to discuss your own self awareness and aligning your values and the organizational values with your actions and embracing these agile practices will support you and help you to make more effective, consistent decisions. And don't forget, the most important key is to communicate it. Communicate your why every time. And we want it to come from you. And we want it to be, if you're changing and shifting directions, we want it to come from you. Here is one of the worst things I've seen. It's one of the most egregious attacks on consistency and decision making when it comes to course correcting. When a leader goes to that next level director below them and says, here's something that we want to change and adjust. And that director then goes to their team and says, yeah, I got this from the top. And so, I'm not really a fan of it, but this is what the top says. So I guess we have to do it. Do you actually think that that right there is going to promote you in the eyes of anyone in the organization? One, your director just threw you as the leader under the bus, but then for the director, their team's going, whoa, what's happening and who do I actually follow here? All right, that was sort of a little bit of a sidetrack because I just had a thought of a team that I've experienced that with. And my encouragement is for you as leaders, again, ask more questions and be self-aware of how your impact is is rippling throughout, right, the organization. You've heard this analogy from me before with the rock in the water. When you drop the rock in the water, it does what? It causes a ripple effect. When you drop the rock in the water, causes a ripple effect. That ripple effect continues on, and you can see it long after the rock is gone. So the impact of your decision changing constantly, your inconsistency in your decision making has a ripple effect that goes on and on and on. The single decision is gone. I can't see it, but the ripple effect and the impact goes on and on and on. And you are responsible. And you are responsible for providing guidance and creating clear expectations and effective communication and reliable decision-making processes so that your team knows what's expected so they can win on your behalf. And I'll tell you what, when leaders are consistent with their communication at all levels, the positive outcomes are incredible. And we're going to talk about that on a future episode because I want to dive into the positive outcomes of your consistent communication. Today, I just wanted to dive into decision making and the challenges that you have in your team that you may have be experiencing might have something more to do with your inconsistency in decision making, their lack of trust of you, their lack of security in you as the leader than anything. So that's what I want you to take a look at today. So here, listen, I want to know what the actionable takeaways are for you. I want you to take a second and write those down. We covered a lot of information, and you're going to want to get that after action plan today because there's more tips in there on this topic because it's so important that you as a leader understand the power of your consistency and your follow through for your people. So what are those key takeaways for you? And what do you need or want? No, I'm going to use need intentionally. What do you need to put in place in order to implement consistent decision making in your own leadership and in those around you? What do you need? What do you want to put in place? Now's the time to write that down. Now's the time to take action on it. Hey there, thank you so much for joining me in the sandbox today. I hope you got some new tips, tools, and strategies to navigate your personal leadership, your team leadership, and your next bold conversation. And most importantly, based on today's conversation, that you understand the value of consistency in decision-making as a leader and how you can apply those 3 things you wrote down immediately to impact a positive change for your team. Hey, it would mean so much to me if you took a moment to share this episode with a friend or a colleague that you would think could really benefit from what we shared here in the sandbox today. And you know, third-party affirmations go a long way in today's world economy. So you sharing it would be an honor for me. And it just shows that you gained value and you're telling other people about the value that you gained from spending time in the sandbox. Now, don't forget to head on over to tammyjbond.com/podcast and click on today's episode to get the action plan filled with a lot of great tools that we didn't cover yet on this episode. Now, remember, friend, leadership is not something that you are born with. It's something that you grow into. And thank you so much for taking time today to grow into your next level of leadership in the sandbox. Make it a great day.